In Burkina Faso, under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, the winds of change blow fiercely across the country. The nation, once dominated by the shadows of Western influence, has found a new leader who embodies the spirit of defiance and liberation. Traoré's rise is not just a personal triumph, but a pivotal moment for the entire region of West Africa. His leadership represents a new dawn for the people of Burkina Faso, as they embark on a journey to reclaim their autonomy, challenge neocolonialism, and shape their own destiny. This is not just about one man. It is a movement fueled by the youth of Africa, by the desire to end foreign manipulation, and by the dream of African unity. Ibrahim Traoré has become the face of this revolution, a symbol of African awakening. His government, built upon anti-colonial principles and a fierce desire for independence, has garnered the attention of not only the African continent but also the global stage. As the world watches, Burkina Faso's political landscape shifts dramatically under his guidance. The time for passive resistance has passed. Traoré's vision for Africa's future is one of strength, unity, and sovereignty. He knows that the fight against foreign influence is not just political, it's personal. Every decision, every policy, reflects the deep-rooted desire to liberate Burkina Faso from the chains of its past, to position the country as a beacon of hope for the rest of Africa. The tension in the air is palpable. As Ibrahim Traoré begins to solidify his control, a seemingly trivial encounter sparks a profound moment of reckoning. In a crowded hotel lobby, a young journalist, unaware of the man he's about to insult, brushes past Traoré with a dismissive gesture. His words, laced with condescension, echo in the tense silence. "Who are you, really? Another politician, pretending to change things?" The journalist, in his arrogance, fails to see the depth of the man standing before him. To him, Ibrahim Traoré is just another figure of a collapsing regime. The snub is intentional, born from a place of Western arrogance, from the misconception that someone like Traoré could never be a true leader. It's an act of disrespect, one that disregards the profound historical weight of African leadership, of the continent's struggle for dignity and respect. Traoré, however, remains calm, silent. His gaze lingers on the journalist, unshaken. There is no outburst, no immediate retaliation. The tension builds as the journalist continues his flippant remarks, but Traoré's silence is like a quiet storm, seemingly calm, yet with the power to change the course of history. The world around him doesn't know yet, but this moment will serve as a turning point for more than just his own destiny. The lobby is still. The journalist's words, once filled with arrogance, now seem out of place. Suddenly, the door opens, with a quiet but undeniable force. A group of armed soldiers enters, their presence commanding the room. Ibrahim Traoré, without a single word, steps forward. The silence that follows is deafening. The journalist's eyes widen as he realizes that the man he just insulted is not just any politician. He is Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary leader, who has brought a new vision of African independence to life. This is the moment of truth, when the scales of power shift with a single, slow motion. The once dismissive journalist now stands in the shadow of a man who represents the future of Africa. The power dynamics have changed. The world outside, accustomed to viewing African leaders through a colonial lens, must now confront the reality of a new Africa, one that will no longer bow to foreign pressure or colonial legacies. The journalist, now pale and trembling, realizes the enormity of his mistake. The humiliation is not just his. It is shared by all those who have underestimated the resolve of African leaders like Traoré. As the room shifts, so too does the course of history. This moment marks a clear line in the sand, the point where Africa, led by figures like Ibrahim Traoré, starts to reclaim its future and challenge the established global order. The moment is hushed, but within it, there is a profound transformation. Ibrahim Traoré does not speak. He doesn't need to. His presence is enough. As the journalist stands, stricken with shame, Traoré's gaze cuts through the tension like a blade, calm, steady, and unyielding. The true power of this moment lies not in retaliation, but in the quiet dignity of the leader. He does not need to shout to assert his authority. It is inherent in the very silence he commands. The journalist stumbles, his arrogance now replaced by fear and regret. In a final act of silence, Traoré nods slightly to his soldiers, signaling them to escort the now subdued man from the room. But there is no violence, no humiliation. There is only a clear, unspoken lesson, the kind of justice that transcends retribution. This is not a quest for vengeance. It is a statement of moral strength. Traoré understands that true leadership is not about lowering oneself to the level of those who seek to belittle others. It is about rising above and allowing one's actions to speak louder than any words could. The world watches this moment, though the room remains eerily quiet. As the doors close behind the journalist, the weight of what has just occurred settles, and IBRAHIM TRAORÉ has proven that power does not always come with loud gestures or sweeping displays. True strength lies in measured, dignified responses that assert a moral high ground, setting an example for Africa and the world. This is the new Africa, where respect, dignity, and sovereignty are non-negotiable. In the wake of his firm stance, IBRAHIM TRAORÉ begins to forge a bold new direction for Burkina Faso, one that distances his country from the traditional Western powers and instead seeks new alliances. This is not just a diplomatic shift, it is a radical repositioning on the geopolitical map. Traoré reaches out to Russia, a nation that, like him, has long been a symbol of defiance against Western imperialism. It is here, in this unexpected partnership, that the seeds of a new anti-colonial vision for Africa are sown. The alliance with Russia signifies more than a mere diplomatic or military partnership. It is a declaration that Burkina Faso, and by extension West Africa, will no longer be beholden to foreign powers that have historically imposed their will on the continent. With Russia's support, Burkina Faso gains access to vital resources, military expertise, and economic partnerships that challenge the outdated structures of global power. The move sends shockwaves through international corridors, particularly among former colonial powers who had grown accustomed to influencing African politics. This alliance, however, is not just about Burkina Faso. It is part of a larger regional movement, an awakening that is spreading through West Africa. Countries like Mali and Niger, sharing similar anti-colonial sentiments, begin to align with Burkina Faso's revolutionary path. Together, they form a collective resistance against Western influence, grounded in the shared goals of African unity, sovereignty, and self-determination. The rise of this new alliance signals the emergence of a fresh political landscape in Africa, one where the voices of the people are louder than the dictates of foreign powers. As the alliance between Burkina Faso, Russia, and other regional powers deepens, a new and powerful coalition is born, the Sahel Alliance. This coalition is not just a political entity. It is a force that unites several countries in West Africa, bound by a shared goal of resisting foreign domination and reclaiming their sovereignty. The Sahel region, a land of immense cultural and geopolitical significance, becomes the stage for a new kind of unity, one that transcends traditional borders and embraces the collective strength of African nations. The Sahel Alliance represents a strategic shift in how African countries perceive their place in the world. No longer will they be pawns in a game played by foreign powers. The nations within this coalition, led by figures like IBRAHIM TRAORÉ, are reasserting control over their resources, their politics, and their futures. The alliance is rooted in the idea of pan-Africanism, a belief that African nations must stand together against common threats, whether those threats are military, economic, or ideological. While the Sahel Alliance is a symbol of strength, it is also a challenge to the Western powers that have long viewed Africa as a continent to be exploited. The coalition's very existence questions the legitimacy of the neo-colonial influence that has shaped African politics for centuries. By aligning with one another, the member states of the Sahel Alliance are not just responding to external pressures. They are forging a path toward a future where African nations determine their own destinies, free from the yoke of colonialism and foreign manipulation. The formation of the Sahel Alliance sends ripples across the globe. Western governments, who have long seen the Sahel region as a strategic area for influence and control, react swiftly to this shift in power. The alliance, built on principles of anti-colonialism and resistance to foreign influence, poses a direct challenge to the established world order. As news of the coalition spreads, diplomatic tensions rise, with some countries calling for sanctions, while others question the legitimacy of the new alliance. The international community, particularly the United States and European Union, struggles to respond to this new reality. For decades, they have been the primary actors in African geopolitics, and the idea of an Africa-led coalition defying their interests is unsettling. However, the reaction is not limited to governments. Global media, particularly those with ties to Western powers, begins to spin narratives questioning the legitimacy of the Sahel Alliance, framing it as a threat to stability in the region. These attempts to undermine the coalition only strengthen the resolve of its members, reinforcing their belief that their fight is not just for independence, but for the future of African dignity and unity. The international pressure, however, is not without consequences. While the Sahel Alliance grows in strength, it faces significant challenges in securing long-term stability. Economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and even military threats loom over the coalition. But Traoré and his allies are undeterred. Their commitment to resisting foreign influence is unyielding. They know that their battle is not just for their countries, but for Africa's place in the world, a place of respect, unity, and self-determination. As the Sahel Alliance solidifies its position, Ibrahim Traoré's vision for Africa's future becomes clearer than ever. This is not just a political revolution, it is a social, cultural, and ideological awakening. The future of Africa lies not in its submission to the powers of the past, but in its ability to define its own path. The rise of the Sahel Alliance marks the beginning of a new era, one where African nations stand together, united in their resistance to neo-colonialism and their pursuit of sovereignty. The path ahead is not easy. There are countless obstacles, internal divisions, external pressures, and the enduring legacy of colonialism. Yet the dream of a unified, independent Africa is no longer a distant ideal. Under the leadership of Traoré and other revolutionary figures, the African continent is beginning to shake off the chains of foreign influence and reclaim its narrative. The struggles of the past are not forgotten, but they are reframed as lessons, fueling the drive for a brighter future. Africa is rising. This is the awakening. This is Ibrahim Traoré's revolution. These words become the anthem of a new generation. The youth, inspired by Traoré's vision, take up the mantle of leadership, bringing new energy, new ideas, and new determination to the cause. The future is African, and the continent is poised to redefine its place in the world. With every step, Africa moves closer to realizing its full potential, standing as a beacon of hope for nations everywhere seeking freedom, equality, and self-determination.